Greetings, sunshines and sunnies. It is I, Queen J Lotus, Pimp Sunkiss, coming at y'all right quick, right fast, maybe, hopefully, with a royale review for Wife Swap, Celebrity Wife Swap to be exact. So, there's a regular people version, then there's a celebrity version, but both versions have the commonality where they switch the wives. Whether the wives are the celebrities and the wives, or the wives of some celebrities or whatever. So they switch them, see how the structure and family dynamics are elsewhere, see what they want to keep, see what they want to throw away and reform. So, I'm going to do Celebrity Wife Swap on this channel. And I'm starting from the beginning. I'm starting from the very first episode on the very first season. So, this is with the actresses, and one of them is also a musician. Tracie Gold from Growing Pains and Carnie Wilson. Carnie Wilson from Wilson and Phillips, and she is the daughter of what's that man's name? Carnie is the daughter of Brian Wilson. Brian Wilson is her daddy, and he was a member of the Beach Boys. Right, that's right. The Beach Boys. The Beach Boys! And he was one of the co-founders of the Beach Boys. All right, I wanted to make sure I had that all the way together. Your girl is from Bel Air, Los Angeles, California. Today, she is 55 years old. So, I believe this show started in 2012. So, she was somewhere around her late 30s or her early knocking on mid 40s during the time in which this episode was filmed and distributed. Okay? Okay. So, she got 2 daughters, 2 fries, 2 large drinks, and 2 apple pies. It's big. I got musical Tourette's. Don't mind me. So, honey, tears go. Your girl had a lot of stuff going on that was upsetting me and my homegirl. And her husband have a very, at least at the time of which this was filmed and distributed, her and her husband seemed like they was teetering upon divorce, honey. Or at least teetering upon the stage of their lives where they would be teetering upon divorce. Okay, so yeah. Carnie is presented as more of the free-spirited, easygoing, not trying to worry about too much. I see you when I see it. I get you when I get you. But there were some things that came up about Miss Carnie that made me feel like she wasn't too comfortable in that. Like that was some type of rebellion, maybe even trauma response in certain types of ways to some things, and we're gonna get into it. Okay. But so her husband also is a songwriter, producer, musician, and all of that. They met at a concert. She still performs now. Tours, well, at the time this aired, she still performs and everything, and tours and does appearances. And I've seen Carnie in some things. I can't remember all of the things that I've seen her in, but I've seen her do, quite a few cameos, some performances, and things of that nature. So I came in kind of familiar with your girl. Not knowing all of the things. Like, I didn't know her daddy was one of the Beach Boys. But, yeah, know a couple of things about your girl. And I learned so much more about her throughout this episode. And I still like her. I just hope that she's better now. Okay? So, while she's presented as the happy-go-lucky, free spirit, not worried about Nathaniel, all of that, I also got that she is more emotional and more emotionally in tune than she likes to lead on. It just makes me feel like she's much more capable than what she gives herself credit for and what she allows herself to tap into. Now, the other lady we got on here, honey, her name is Tracie Gold. And she was on the show Growing Pains. I believe this show came out maybe the late 80s, early 90s. Don't quote me, honey. I'm a bit on the young side. And that's just, what I'm saying, a little bit before my time. So I don't know, like this here. I watched Full House. I watched Fresh Prince of Bel Air. Things of that nature. Growing Pains didn't cross my radar. I heard of it. I know what it is, but hit myself in the mouth. But I heard of it. I know what it is, but I ain't watch it, but I do recognize her adorable face. Your girl is adorable, like just endlessly adorable. She was adorable then, and she's adorable now. Adorable. Got just the cutest smile, just the cute patoots, okay? And her husband have a very close knit relationship. They are very affectionate, seemingly very in tune, work very well as a team, and their thing is potentially being overly structured, having a whole lot of rules, potentially being overly civilized, having the potential to be overly civilized, and potentially overly civilizing their kids. And we're gonna talk about that. So the commonality these two have is being child stars. Carnie is the daughter of a celebrity all at the same time, however. So that's one difference. And then, of course, the difference in Carnie being more of the, free spirit, all of that. And then Tracie, more overly civilized, overly structured, heavily disciplined, this, that, and the third. Now, some more differences is Carnie, that girl got 2 kids, honey. She got 2 of them. Tracie, however, got 4 of them boys. Literally, 4 of them boys. Her oldest at the time was 14. And then the one after him was probably somewhere around like the preteen age. And then it was 2 little ones. Just seemed like that was that far in age. Actually kind of look like twins to me. But, baby, I hear you knocking. But I can't quit to let you in. You see right now, I'm a little too busy. I'm running round after 4 youngins. I said, ooh, baby, ooh. 4 of them boys. Okay. So, Tracie and her husband, very family oriented, and they seem to use their structure so that they can maintain a work-life balance and all that. But it's some things in there that's just a little unbalanced. Woo of the child. So, in the pre-stages of their introduction and everything, and us getting to see just their natural background and all that, I just so happen to notice that that Freudian slip. Tracie was calling her sons good boys. And on the surface, nothing really wrong with that, but your son is 14, your oldest son is 14 in particular. You're calling him good boy, constantly reiterating to him that he's a good boy. You still pick out his clothes. She pick out all her kids' clothes, but she's still picking out clothes for the 14-year-old. So, while the kids end up showing themselves to be quite responsible for themselves and having some pretty good values, instruction, discipline, and all that, she also coddles them at the same time. And it's like a coddling that comes with the territory of being overly controlling. Because some people that have control issues, they like to yell that it's too much on them. And I'm not saying Tracie does this. It's just something that I noticed. They often feel like, oh, everything is on me. If I don't do it, who will? But at the same time, it's like that because you're not allowing anyone else the space to do what they need to do, what you do, and all that shit. And a part of you finds power in it. Just like a part of you is finding power in playing victim to the circumstance as well. And that's just one response. Like I said, I'm not saying Tracie does that. We're going to get into the things that Tracie does. So, over at the Wilson household with Carnie, it's noted that she's gone a lot. She often feels overworked at home. So I'm guessing, while touring is hard work and everything, it's like a escape for her, if you will. It's kind of like a break. It's something fun for her. Also, but when she gets home, she's overworked. But I'm a little confused. We're going to talk about it, honey. Okay. And with that said, let's just get straight to the nitty gritty, honey. Now, like I said, you get the beginning pleasantries and everything, and seeing how their households naturally work. They introduce themselves. They tell, like, their significance and everything. How many kids they got, all this, that, and the third. But a lot of that is reiterated once they do the switch and they get to the household manual. So, before I tap into the household manual of it all, I'm just going to tap into a little bit of their anticipations. So, Carnie seemed very, excited and just hopeful that there's nobody that has a whole lot of rules. And, of course, you're going to get took out your comfort zone. And she states that she hopes for, a gracious family and all this, that, and the third. Now, that lets me know it's another one of those instances of Carnie hoping for the best, but seeming more nervous than she's letting off. Something tells me that Carnie has had issues with rejection, being ostracized, being controlled, or something of the sort throughout her life. And just based off the things that I already know from watching the episode and her saying that and how she came off with it and everything, it seemed like she genuinely wanted somebody that would be gracious, somebody that would accept her for who she is, even her ugly sides, the parts that are not so cute. So keep that in mind, honey. Keep that in mind. Tracie comes off much more sure of herself and also much more open to being corrected, but also hopeful. But I feel like Tracie was more genuinely hopeful, it seemed, because Tracie is more sure of herself. And it wasn't noted either if Tracie still works, but I get the idea that she's now a housewife. So that could also play a part in her just being like, ooh, new experience, something to do. So they do the switch, honey. And let's talk about the household manuals first. So, with the gist, like I said before, Tracie picks out her boys' clothes. Everything is very micromanaged. They are never late for anything. Her boys have lives. Very plentiful lives, okay? They go to school. They got music practice, soccer practice, violin, all types of stuff going on. The house is to stay clean. The boys know how to clean up behind themselves. They know how to help with dinner. It's in the rules that they help out with dinner. All of that. The oldest boy is very attentive and somewhat of a third parent in the situation, if you will. He helps keep the ties of everything. And we're going to talk about that too, honey. We're going to talk about that too, okay? But at the same time, they have their moments for family intimacy. They eat dinner together. Always. There is no eating outside of the kitchen. They have times set around when they get together, watch movies and all of that. But for the most part, even then, it's still this understanding of, honey, don't do too much. And I know what that's like because I come from a similar household and we weren't able to sit on furniture around here until I turned 18. And even still, it's like, okay, you sitting there, but don't get crazy. So yeah, even in moments of comfort, baby, don't get too comfortable. So over at the Carnie household, they don't ever eat together. Carnie is often gone a lot. Like I said, she's still touring and performing and everything. And her husband stays cooped up in the studio office area making music. And I'm talking about cooped up to capacity, cooped up beyond capacity, to the point where Carnie has a nanny and one of her family members acting as a housekeeper, which seemed to me more like the head mistress or whatever, because even Tracie described it as a girl runs the household. Carnie don't have to do much, and that's why I was confused about why you feel like you overworked at home. But it seemed like you don't have to do too much. It seemed like you don't even choose to do too much. Hold that thought. Okay? So the nanny and the housekeeper take turns with Carnie when she's there and taking the kids to camp and school and, seeing to the kids for the rest of the day and all of that. Carnie has 2 young girls at this point. One is, both are toddlers, but one is probably like 2 and then the other is like 3, 4, somewhere in that area. Like able to talk, communicate her feelings, all that. So in Tracie's household manual, there is this emphasis on manners and presentation, representation, and all that. Carnie busted out laughing at it. Even in the midst of her reading the household manual, she burping and farting and all this other stuff. And don't get me wrong, we all human, we all burp and pass gas and all this, that, and the third. Better out than in. It's good for your body. It's a part of your body's process, yes. But it's a time and a place for everything. It's certain people that you should feel comfortable being able to do that recklessly and all of this. But then it's also certain times, places, and people that you shouldn't feel that comfortable just being raunchy around. And Carnie, baby, you doing all of this on TV and in somebody else's house. And that leads me to the aspect of where I was feeling like there was some type of rebellion going on. And her potentially having some trauma with being discarded and judged or, micromanaged and things of that nature, to where she challenges whoever she's around by doing all of these things that would make her seem unappealing to see if you're still going to accept her and be nice to her after she's grossed you out. And I get that, but at the same time, checks and balances. Checks and balances, something to be unpacked. Like I said, it's a time and a place for everything. And there's a lot of therapy that could definitely be needed in this show as a whole. I think, child, at some point they should have implemented a therapist when they meet back up and exchange their notes and shit, so that they could unpack some things or have like an after show or something of the sort. But yeah, she was doing it throughout too, like burping and farting and talking about scratching herself and digging and like get it how you live, okay? Get it how you live. I accept you as you are, but baby, come around me with just all of that. Just like I said, better at the end we all do it. If it's loud, okay, cool. But you just deliberately, it's like you trying to upset me. That's the vibe I get. You trying to be gross. You trying to make people uncomfortable with your flatulence and everything. And I just don't dig it. Like, damn, if it happened, okay, cool. We'll navigate through that. But you just deliberately. Honey, let me go ahead and get through this because I'll be here all day. So she laughs at the whole manner situation, of course, because clearly she had some oppositionary, if that's a word, she got some oppositionary values concerning that. So upon them entering each other's households, baby, I think Carnie used the same terminology. This looks like a doll's house. Tracie's house looks like a doll's house. Baby, everything is spick and span. Everything is put up. Everything is organized. You can't tell nobody live there. It look like a display house. It look like they are ready to sell the house at any point in time, honey. But I would rather be in there than to be at that pigsty that Carnie ass was over there orchestrating. Talking about, oh, just don't worry about it. Baby, it's one thing not to worry too much and stress yourself out over, you know what I'm saying, trying to keep everything in gear all of the time. Because, baby, people live here. And it's just a natural that sometimes things get a little out of hand and maybe a cup left out, you know, some pants laying over across the way, shoes sitting in the kitchen somewhere, whatever, what have you. Because like you said, people live here, people are human, have their own lives, come in, be tired, don't feel like, you know what I'm saying, telling every crick and cranny of everything, spring cleaning every day, all of that. Yes, it can be, that type of shit can be stressful and borderline mentally ill, depending on how hard you're going, you know what I'm saying. But at the same time, mental illness can also show up as you just letting your house go to shambles. It's a damn gnat flying through here, terrorizing me. But yeah, baby, it was food left out. You can't even hardly see the surface of the counters. It was a blessing to be able to see some of the surface of the floor. Shit was cluttery. It's dark in there. You talking about you overworked at home? There are 4 adults living in that house. 2 of them have help roles, which lets me know that both of the parents, both of the leaders, the king and queen of that household, are negligent and absent, be it spiritually, energetically, physically, whatever, what have you. Y'all ain't doing Nathaniel or what y'all need to be doing. There ain't no reason why that house should look like that with 4 adults living in it. Holy thought. So, when Carnie arrives at the Tracie household, baby, she is met with so much love and embrace and hospitality, affection, warmness. Tracie gets over there to Carnie's husband, and he being shady at the gate. Now he giving this vibe like he trying to be nice and wants to come off like a nice guy, like she's welcome and everything. But my eyes tell me he did not want her there. He did not want her there. for one reason or another. Maybe he felt like she was gonna come in and be able to peep his bullshit and whip him into shape and everything, and or he found himself attracted to her and knew he couldn't do all that he probably wanted to do and resented her for it and took it out on her. Now I'm able to bet on both, and I'm willing to bet on both. And when I say hold that thought, honey, hold that thought. So he walk in, talking about, I don't know you. Didn't even look her in the eye upon walking in the house. And he's saying it playfully, but it's giving a passive aggressive energy. So he walks up on her, oh, I know exactly who you are. It just took a minute. Okay. So, who? And Tracie was also kind of picking up on it as well. So, fast forward, not too far, but fast forward, they tap in, have a conversation, and Tracie is basically trying to get some reassurance about the household manual and everything, some things that she kind of had some wonders and concerns about. And he like, huh? Household manual? Huh? What? I don't know anything about it. And me and Tracie like, huh? You got a foreign individual coming into your house, and you ain't even checked in to see if they're gonna understand, like, prior to the rules and regulations and everything that's going over here. You not like tapped into any of that. You just like, huh? What? Like. And Tracie is like, my husband knows everything about the household manual. I wrote it. We went through it together. We read it multiple times. We had conversations on it, all of that, because we're a team. We run a household as a team. And I'm like, I can tell. Already, within just a couple of seconds of the show, you can tell that they work as a team and they communicate very fluently with each other. And just like that, you can tell that Carnie and her husband, so the husband's names are Rob and Robbie. I'm willing to bet that both of them, their names are Robert, but we're calling Tracie's husband Robbie and Carnie's husband Rob. So Rob and Carnie very clearly out of sync. Out of sync real bad. We get over to Tracie's household where Carnie is, and it's time for dinner. Mind you, think about what I just said now. One couple is very in sync. Got their flaws, but they in sync. The other couple is not. Tracie over here got to explain the rules of the household to the man of the house who lives there, who don't even really leave the house like talking about. Meanwhile, Carnie is over to Tracie's household, and they immediately able to just get straight into it, which is another implication of the synchronicity that they have with each other. That he already know what's good. He already know, a bit of what to expect, how to reel her in, welcome her, and throw her into the loop. So they fixing dinner. All of the boys know how to help with dinner. And child, this is where we see Carnie's limitations as well. Carnie don't even know how to find a cup in the kitchen. Granted, you ain't never been here before, but it's not rocket science, boo. If you live in a house, it's only a couple of logical places where a cup would be inside of a kitchen, inside of a house. But that's just another thing that goes to show you how inactive Carnie actually is in her house. It stood out to her so that the oldest son was able to help her find a cup and help with dinner and all of this, that, and the third. It just shows that she perhaps isn't used to being around males who are able to be domestic. That's what that kind of tells me too. And it's a great reflection on Tracie and her husband, for real, because them boys know how to survive if they ever just left on the side of the street. God forbid they ever be left on the side of the street. But I'm saying there's some balance there already. Yeah, they're over civilized, but at the same time, they seem like they're loved up on real well and taught how to fend for themselves at the same time, which is very admirable. So over to Carnie's household, however, first of all, Tracie is grossed out the same way I was grossed out upon seeing that travesty of a home with all that stuff just all over the place, food left out, everything, just things clearly in shambles. The physicality of the house, keen reflection on the structure of the relationships of the people living in the house. So amongst that, Carney does a good deed and has food ordered and delivered to the house to take a load off of Tracie so she don't have to worry about cooking or none of that. And that's a blessing even more so because Tracie ain't got to figure out how to fight through that muck to fucking try to cook in there. And it made me kind of feel like another instance where Carney, talk all of this confidence, but it made me feel like Carney knew that Tracie would have a hard time trying to cook up in there. So she ordered food. But at the same time, I would want to eat outside because it looked like it probably smelled in there. And not good. Okay, so they run down the clarification that they don't ever like eat together, like talking about like at a table, but it tends to be if there is some togetherness about dinner, it's Carney, the nanny, the housekeeper, and the girls. Rob stays up where he is, and they're able to eat outside the kitchen. They're able to eat in their rooms. They're able to eat in the living room, all that. And the housekeeper and the nanny, they're mimicking like what tends to go on a regular basis. Rob, come to dinner. Rob, 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 Rob. So basically, when Carney is at home, it's a continuation every day of calling for Rob, and Rob don't come out. Rob act like he don't hear nothing. He don't see nothing. He don't come out the room. None of that. He just trusts everybody to be okay and be okay for his kids, and that his kids are all right and taken care of, and he could just be up in the studio all day, every day, just. And that was another part that was in the household manual too about Rob going to bed during the witching hours, like 4, 5, 6 o'clock type shit in the morning, which as an artist, that's not uncommon. But then sleeping till noon, getting up, eating, going back into the studio and staying there. Same thing every day. And like I said, as an artist, that's not particularly uncommon. And certain parts of it make sense to me. But sir, you got kids, you got a wife, you got a family, and you're abandoning them. Yeah, you in the house, but you've abandoned and neglected them. And Carney constantly describes them as two ships passing in the night. And Tracie is getting a first-hand experience of this. On down to the next day, she in the house, she, trying to figure out what's her place in the house. What did she do as the wife of this household now? And the nanny and the housekeeper have taken the girls off to school, camp, everything they have to do. And she just left at the house. It's like, because, they have to basically conform to what goes on in that household first. Which, that's a part of the experiment. That's a key part of the experiment. When in Rome, do as. So, when in Carney's house, do as, which means she just sit in the house and wonder. And this is where I feel like Carney feels overworked. Because she's in the house with her husband, but has no access to him. Probably has a load of things she wants to say to him, wants to ask him, wants to talk to him about. Just wants to connect with him in general, but he stays cooped up in that room. He act like he don't hear her calling him. He act like he don't know that he has a wife and kids that also live in the house that he should be giving attention and time to and all this, that, and the third. So that's all Tracie has to do there. On down to, because she's a guest in the house, she don't feel comfortable just going in the pantry, and he didn't make her feel comfortable in the pantry because he didn't even make her feel comfortable upon the first introduction, and that was like a large part of the confirmation to me that my antennas was on point with how he initially approached her and did not really welcome her into the space. So she waited hours before she went upstairs to knock on the door and be like, hey, can I do you mind if I just help myself to anything in the kitchen? He's like, yeah, everything, yeah, sure, go ahead, yeah, go ahead. And again, this energy of him trying to come off hospitable and he's going, I was like, yeah. But it's also like you saying, yeah, go ahead, whatever gets you out my face faster. I would rather not be bothered. I wish you would have just done that instead of coming and asking me. So then he, in my opinion, lies. Because she asked him, okay, so, you just stay up here, huh? You just up here like all the time. He's like, yeah, for the most part, yeah, I guess, maybe I'll see you at dinner. Knowing goddamn well that she's not going to see him at dinner because he has absolutely no plans of going to dinner because he knows that that's not a part of his routine. So you telling her whatever needs to be said to get her out the room the fastest. And they get to dinner, and of course, he's a no-show. So hop back over to Carnie at Tracie's house. And their morning routine is going and everything. Robbie is reiterating to her, look, we never been late. We don't be late. We don't do that late shit. You gotta pick up the clothes. You gotta fix dinner. You gotta fix fix breakfast. They got practice. They got rehearsal. They got this. They got that. They got. And honey, Carnie was in shambles. And I do feel like if she would have spent more time on just focusing on the task at hand, besides trying to argue and talk back and criticize the routine, they would have been much more punctual in the situation. It wouldn't have been as hard as she made it out to be. But they're going through the motions, and granted, it's a fish out of water type situation. She way out of her comfort zone. Not only is this a house full of rules, but she went from 2 small girls to 4 of them boys. So I give her a bit of grace. But at the same time, she was acting real pussy. She was acting real because she was feeling like Robbie was being like a drill sergeant on her or whatever, and he really wasn't. He was really being tenderly firm, compassionately firm, and just reminding her, hey, we gotta be here at this time. Hey, we don't be late. Hey, make sure you do this. Hey, make sure you do that. Firm, but still tender and compassionate at the same time. He was not rough with her. He was not yelling at her. He was not like clapping his hands and snapping his fingers or none of that. And he was working with her as a team. But Carnie don't know how to do too much of shit because clearly she ain't had to do too much of shit. And that's why I wanted to point out too that she's the daughter of a celebrity. Now, the children of celebrities don't always have lavish lifestyles. So that's not what I'm saying. But what Carnie was given is that she is the child of a celebrity, and she had that lavish lifestyle that should come with it. Because if your parents are rich, you should have a piece of that, right? Amongst her making her own money at such a young age, getting into the business and all that, instead of performing out. And she got all this help. She still don't have to do too much nothing. So she can't find a cup. She having a hard time cooking. She having a hard time cleaning. She don't know Nathaniel about it. She don't know Nathaniel about being on time. And that's another thing. Because as a performing artist, being punctual is very important. Unless you're dependent on nepotism. So that lets me know that you ain't never been in a position or environment or circumstance where people are actually on your ass about being on time. Because you come from this pioneer of the music industry, right? And you're a part of the music industry. So people don't want to offend your father. So they're going to let you kind of just do a couple of things that you want to do. That's the vibe it was giving me. Because you being a part of the industry, you should have some sort of notion about punctuality, because a lot of people in the industry, you 1 minute late. They tell you show up 15 minutes before. Yeah, this is the call time, but you got to show up 15 minutes before in order to solidify your spot still. So you show up past that 15-minute grace period, you done for. So you telling me that you don't know anything about punctuality? And you got 2 girls at this point? And you, at your big old age, like, you ain't had to do too much nothing. And it ain't saying that she ain't never been through nothing. I'm sure she has. But she, as far as cooking and the cleaning, some of the basics of taking care of yourself just on a regular, you clearly ain't got it. So how the fuck is you gonna be there for 4 other people? Boys at that. So baby, she was struggling, fumbling, farting and snorting all through the... But they managed to make it. And by the end of the day, they got the dinner. By the end of that day, they got the dinner. She got everybody fed behind her. She looked like she was done for. She looked like she had barely touched her food. Like she probably ain't even eat. She was just at the table like... Which again, either way, she would have been done for tired, because there's more kids and more stuff that she's ever had to deal with. Especially emphasis on the kids' part. So she's totally out of her comfort zone. So it's totally understandable. It's just at the same time, it goes to show that she ain't really had to do shit. And yeah, her husband is way out of line with how he conducts himself on a regular basis, and he's not present. But at the same time, girl, is showing that you ain't that present either. You ain't as present as you think you are. You ain't as present as you need to be. So now it's time to switch. And ain't gonna take a whole lot of hoopla to explain how the rules gonna switch around, because it's easy. One house about to get more rules, and the other house about to get none. So over there, I'm gonna call her Carnie. Carnie done told them, y'all ain't gotta go to no rehearsals. We're gonna cut out some of these practices. I'm gonna allow y'all to just be kids. I'm gonna take y'all to the beach. Y'all gonna play in some mud, some dirt, get dirty. I'm gonna get some paint. Y'all just gonna run amok. It's gonna be a whole fun day. All this, that, and the third. Big Daddy Robbie, sit your ass down. Don't wash no clothes. Don't wash no dishes. Don't sweep no floor. Don't do none of that. Don't fluff no pillow. You better sit around here and watch Matlock. Period. And they did need that. They needed that, and they needed it bad. The youngest 3 boys, they were hella elated ready to, you know what I'm saying, make it do what it do. They got out there to the beach and they was running a mug. I'm talking about they snatched sheets off the bed when they were still at the house, just throwing stuff all over the place. But you can still see that they understand not to do too much, because they wasn't writing all over the walls. They wasn't breaking stuff. They wasn't doing none of that. They was just allowing themselves to be messy and imperfect in the basic senses of the term. They got to the beach. They put the paint all over everywhere. They was playing a silly string. They got wet. They got the sand all over everywhere. They wasn't worried about just trying to stay clean. But the oldest boy, he was way out of his comfort zone and seemed very concerned about how his parents would see him and what his parents would think about him if he was to fully indulge in the activity of it all. And Carnie had a very valuable moment with him in conversation and said some very valuable words to him. Some real ass shit. Like, this is good messy. And it's the good messy moments that help us navigate through the not so good messy moments. And it's gonna be some of those. Like, you young now, and I'm sure you done had, you know, some moments or whatever, but it only gets stronger. And it's these good messy moments that help you be stronger through those stronger, not so good messy moments. So enjoy this and allow yourself to take this in so that you can find other ways to allow yourself to enjoy and have knowledge and access to good, messy, fun, messy moments. And I really hope that that stuck with him. And I really hope that that's something that he found a way to implement into his life now, like to this day. Because he seemed like one of those, kind of like a preacher's kid, if you will, that like feels so under the pressure of keeping up this standard that they end up crashing and burning going for it. And that's the reality that a lot of celeb kids have as well. And I feel like Carnie was definitely relating to him with that. Like, she's the daughter of a celebrity. He's the son of a celebrity. And Tracie probably had all those rules set in stone as kind of like a projection at the same time, because they are child stars. And like I said, Carnie comes from being the child of a celebrity, and Tracie understands, you know, interacting with those types of people and the dark paths that they can go down under the pressure and under the lack of discipline and people that care about them and all of that. So I can see her intents to set that balance of discipline and I love you, I love you, I love you, I love you, you're a good boy, you're a good boy, you're a good boy, you're a good boy, that reassurance all at the same time. And I see it working. It's just also, I do feel like he needed that moment with Carnie of putting that in his brain so that he remember it, because all those rules and responsibility at such a young age could have also sent him down a path of travesty, just acting out, lashing out, getting caught up in stuff, rebelling to a fault, you know? Now, back over at Carnie's ranch, Tracie then gave the housekeeper and the nanny the day off. Rob, you're gonna have to take care of your own kids. You're gonna have to get up, drop them off at school and camp and all of this. You're gonna have to be present. You're gonna have to come up out the room. Tracie also cleaned up, thank God. But so they get us for the start of the day and everything. And Tracie is staying on him. Tracie is staying on Rob. But the whole time, he finding every which way to sneak off and go back off into the studio, acting so oblivious every time she go in there, and like he's not mindfully disobeying the rules. Then he's so out of sorts when it comes to driving the babies to school. He's so uncomfortable. He don't. You can tell he don't leave the house. You can tell he don't do nothing. He stay cooped up in their room, and it's clear avoidance of something, like therapy, real bad. Like, they need individual therapy and couples therapy, because what is going on? And what I also feel like it is too is that some type of dispute doesn't happen between all the women of that household and Rob. And Rob got told the fuck off because child Carnie is feisty, and Carnie's a family member that's the housekeeper. She seemed feisty also, and the nanny don't seem like no punk either. And I can bet that 1, 2, all 3 of them done got on his ass in some type of way and told such a truth about him in such type of way that he said, fuck it, I'm just gonna stay up in here. I'm just gonna stay up in the room. A shame. A big shame. And so I feel like that also plays into his apprehension and his standoffness with Tracie. And him, you know, feeling intimidated by her, possibly being attracted to her also, and trying to just, you know, cut her down and make her feel bad, make her feel insecure. And I feel like he does that to Carnie as well. A shame. But so, get the babies off. Then they, you know, have to spend a day together and jump to dinner time now. We get to dinner time. And this is where I feel like, oh, okay, because I had skipped something. Okay, so the first dinner time before the rules changed, there was a moment where the oldest little girl was expressing some hurt and anger with her daddy, like non-verbally or whatever. You could just see it in her face and her body language and everything. And the nanny pried it out of her, and I'm glad that she did. And she was like, "You upset? You want your daddy to come in and have dinner with us? You want to see your daddy?" And she was like, "Yeah." And the nanny like took her in and consoled her and rocked her and all this, that, and the third. Highly appreciate her for that. Great, great, great. So fast forward to fast forward to the rule switch dinner, and the youngest little girl is acting a plumb fool. She's screaming on him. He's trying to hold her, console her, all that. She ain't giving him Nathaniel or what he wants to get up out of her, honey. And I'm just like, yeah, your children are upset with you. Your children are disappointed in you. They are disapproving of you. They are not happy with you, sir. They are hurt and angry. And that's what she's letting out. So he was struggling. Tracie, observed and she coached, but she did not intervene. She like, you gonna handle it. You gonna handle your kid or whatever. So I guess he goes and puts her down for a nap or whatnot. They get to the dinner table. Things seem to go off smooth. And Rob is expressing his appreciation for the moment and how much he feels like it is benefiting him and it's not so bad being outside the room and all of that. And after dinner, they take the girls for a walk. He's still in tune. He's committing and all of that. And it's giving some very redeemable qualities about him. I still notice these little twitches and things that he does, like these nervous tics that he has that are kind of alarming to me. Reminds me of Tracie from Bell Collectors, the constant like touching of the self and just little just little interesting body language things that stand out that show a disconnect from the mind, the heart, the soul, the body, and all of that. But he's committing. So him and Tracie then have this, well, after they put the girls down for bed. And again, the girls seem so elated to have spent this much time with him, have him seeing them to bed and being interactive and playing with them. And he even seems like he's genuinely getting a boost from it. Like he's really enjoying the memories and taking in some values from the experience. So then him and Tracie have a conversation outside on, what looks like the patio. And he's talking about, what I do, I'm passionate about. That's my life. But I'm seeing how it is important to be more present. And she's also like, yeah, and like, you had a very good time. Like sometimes it may feel like it's too late, but it's also a really good time for you because they're still young and that time's gonna fly by and you're gonna regret, not making memories with them. And he expresses, how stressful that day to day can be, in which you haven't allowed yourself to experience it but this one time. But yeah, just knowing, for the most part, even if you've just observed other people with their kids, the day-to-day with very small kids in general, with everything that you're trying to pour into them and you're trying to expose them to and have them experience things that they have to experience, it can be a lot to put your own shit to the side to tend to them. And I feel like he has a fear of that. But, he kind of expressed that like, ooh, yeah, it's a lot, but at the same time, I'm grateful to have experienced it today. And Tracie tells him, yeah, you don't want to sell yourself short on that and you don't want to sell your daughter short on that. So the next day, it's time to switch back. And the night before, let me go back a little bit. The night before, Carnie has dinner with Tracie's family. And this time, instead of it being all together, they were still together, but instead of them being all together in the kitchen, they had dinner in the living room and commiserated in such a way. I believe they were eating pizza or something not too formal, something they didn't have to cook and, do the most with. Low maintenance. And they were just talking about everything, her and Robbie. And Robbie just dotes on Tracie. And this wasn't his first time doing it. He had done it throughout the episode. But in this moment in particular, he was just doting on her. And he just seemed, like you can see his body language, his facial expressions, the tone of his voice and everything, just how infatuated and enamored he is by her, how much he really loves her. And you can see how Carnie is kind of taken aback and in a forth about this. Like she appreciates seeing the possibility of such love, but you can see her longing for that. Like she wish Rob would keep that same energy with her. So, that being said, let's go ahead and get to the switchback. So, the next morning they switching back, and one thing I want to note in Carnie's send off from Tracie's household is the boys just seeming to really have enjoyed her, giving her big old hugs. And one of them even says, we'll never forget these moments. And I feel like that solidifies a great purpose of what the show is supposed to be for. And I really hope that the memories stay with both, sets of kids for the best because that was really warming to see and hear, especially, you know, such little boys being able to express themselves in such a way, and feeling fearless and expressing themselves in such a way. Like, we'll never forget this. I really liked it. And it just says a lot about Carnie. You know, I criticize her on certain things, but that speaks a very valuable truth about her spirit. She was able to leave such a great, lasting impression on the youth. Magnificent. So, they get to the switchback. Having to switch perspectives. Because, you know, it should be going on, it should be going on. Okay. Bear with me. Well, we at the end, though. So, get to the switchback, and child, Tracie and Robbie's reunion is so sweet and so loving and so affectionate. He had flowers for her and everything. Carnie and Rob's reunion was a bit awkward, and there were moments where you could see them kind of looking over to the side like, damn, they so in tune. Okay, let us do a little more like So they get to the table, go to exchanging their notes and everything, and Tracie starts off. I'm sorry, I'm in Mississippi and I'm outside. Bear with me with the bugs, honey. So Tracie starts off with her evaluation, and she basically goes through the motions of saying, I didn't feel very welcome. Rob stays up in the house all the time. He stays up in his room all of the time. That really threw me off. I'm not used to all of this standoffishness, this dissociation, and all this, that, and the third. I'm not used to that. He sleep late. He not, you know what I'm saying, a team with me with the kids. He didn't understand the household manual. Just going down the lines of all the criticisms, you know, we done talked about. I done said, and all this, that, and the third. And for the most part, initially, it seemed like Carnie felt hurt. But then a tide turns. Rob, Carnie's husband, starts to feel kind of ganged up on, which I can understand. But in the process, he starts to kind of get defensive in a way where he's going back on certain things that he's already expressed, that he's been enlightened and evolved on and shit like that. Like, trying to make Carnie feel bad for wanting affection. Again, playing victim. Acting like a baby. Acting like he didn't understand what he signed up for when he got married and had kids. And even Rob B is, you know, saying a few things like, yo, everybody deserves affection. Everybody is needy in some form of the way. You just gotta, you know what I'm saying, click with who is meant for you to click with and commit to what you committed to. You got to be present. You want to make the most of it. You know, kind of saying some of the same things that Tracie has already said to him, and some of the things that he's already said that he gained a consensus on and shit like that. So then Carnie starts to get a little bit defensive and kind of deflects in a way to change the tides to talk about Tracie and the micromanaging and how she feels like that's affecting their oldest boy, Sage. That's his name, Sage. And this is where I got to get on Tracie and Robbie, because they're like, oh, that's just a part of his natural personality. He's very protective. He's very responsible and all this, that, and the third. And I'm like, yeah, that could be true. But at the same time, that's still a reflection of y'all. And there's still hints of that are over civilized. That seems like he's overly invested in what y'all think about him. And he's so afraid to get the least bit of paint in his hair because he's so concerned with how y'all are going to react. So a part of that has been influenced by him being micromanaged and over civilized. There's some aspect of that, and some aspect of the way that he displays that gives, y'all may not accept him for better or for worse. And so he's working to be the best to make sure that y'all accept him. And there's some toxic things associated with that, and I hope that they were able to tap into that and unpack that and be better now and keep him from going down such a, you know what I'm saying, what could be a tumultuous road. Okay, now, let's tap into some things. Some of the things that I didn't tap into too thoroughly at the time of which I mentioned them, because I'm going to have to do it in the form of my perspective and observation. So let's go ahead. If you watch this episode, it's very clear that one couple has flaws and the other couple has big problems. Now, from my research, Carnie and Rob are still married to this day, and I hope it's not in vain. I hope that they have genuinely used
this experience and all of their experiences to be better and more present with each other and get on a teamwork type regimen, become more in tune and intimate. I hope that that's divinely designed. But if it's divinely designed for them to be a lesson for each other, I hope that they get the lesson and allow each other to find somebody else that wants to actually be present with them. Because based off everything that was displayed and said and all that, and the way Carney was reacting to certain things when it came down to them getting back together and exchanging notes and all this, that, and the third, because you agreed with everything that Tracie and Robbie were saying. It's stuff that you had already kind of said yourself. But then when Rob started to feel uncomfortable, you started to coddle him. And don't get me wrong, that's your husband, and you do have this obligation to, stand by your man and all this, that, and the third. But this was the time and the place for you to be straight up. And she had even asked, like, did Rob talk about me at all? Did Rob talk about me at all? And Tracie was trying to be nice and reassure her, like, yeah, he talked about you. He said some nice things about you and all this, that, and the third. And a lot of the little bit of what I did hear him say about her was concerning her, being a mom and all of that shit. And it's like, that just sounds like another part of the script. Because from what we could see, Carney did some great things as a mom. I don't want to, understand, attack her parenting or anything, but she could stand to be much more present also. Both of y'all could stand to be much more present. Both of y'all seem like y'all want to be elsewhere. Carney seemed like she genuinely loved Rob, but Rob seemed like Carney is just convenient for him, like it's cheaper to keep her type shit. And being the legacy that she comes from, I can see it being very well cheaper to keep her. Honey tears. Boy, yeah. They swapped back. Robbie took Tracie back home talking about, I got a mess for you to clean up. I got a mess with your name on it. And I'm sure he gonna help us still, but just like, you signed up for this. Go on in here and get what came with it. So yes, honey, I don't like Rob. I like Robbie. I like Carney. I want her to get her farting and burping and all that shit under control when it comes to being in certain first household and on camera and shit like that. But she contributed some nice things. I don't like Rob. I feel like Carney needed to realize that certain things that she was criticizing Rob about, she's also guilty of. So it seemed like projection. And I wanted her to know that she honestly deserves better. I don't know nothing about their soul contract as man and wife. And I hope that they're divinely designed. I hope that what they're doing is not in vain. But at the same time, if it's divinely designed for them to separate and be with somebody better, I would love to see that as well. Because it seemed like neither one of them was really like, it seemed like they weren't in tune. Especially seeing them in comparison to Tracie and Robbie. It was kind of hard to watch in a way. Because even they were looking like, damn, a couple can be like that. And they work well together. And you done been up in their house and they shit is flawed, but not like fucked up. And that's what it gives. One couple, Tracie and Robbie, seem to be flawed, but stable and intimate for the most part, while Carney and Rob seem to have some really big issues that need some extensive attention and child. Like, like I said, they need individual therapy and couples therapy. And I would say that Tracie and Robbie could just use individual therapy because they gonna come back and talk to each other. They gonna find their way into communicating with each other and shit like that in general and work through it. That's how I was thinking. So yeah, honey, wishing the best for all, even to this day. But with all that being said, child, if I do say so myself, honey, I have milked this couch right. And I am thoroughly appreciative for the exchange of vibes. And if you're feeling synchronized, please do me a divine design and like, share, and subscribe so that you can be one of the first to be back through these queenly quarters for the next time. And be sure to bless my comment section with your questions and conversations. And as always, I bid you all light, love, healing, and liberation. Emphasis on liberation. Mwah.